The thing about the United States is that it is the most welcoming country in the world. The statistics show that. We allow more people to come into our country permanently, to transit through our country, and to come into our country for temporary periods than any other country in the world, and then many other countries combined. And that's a wonderful thing. That is the hallmark of our country, but there is an attendant risk. Because it doesn't take much for disaster to happen. It only takes two Tsarnaev brothers in Boston to wreak death and misery. It's always a needle in the haystack proposition, especially when the presumption is that the individual is lawfully in the United States and has no malintent. It's a balancing act. The Department of Homeland Security would tell you that it's a question of managing risk. I agree with that principle, but disagree with their notion of how to go about it. I believe that it's become a mantra without substance, and that disturbs me greatly. You have to allow immigration officers to go about their daily job in all aspects in order to be sure that you're doing the right thing by national security. When aliens by the hundreds or the thousands get a free pass, and when immigration officers are told certain kinds of cases you walk away from, they will never know what was just inside the door that they didn't get to see that would have disturbed them greatly. Some of the authorities that ICE officers, Border Patrol officers, and even CBP inspectors possess that other agencies don't is the right to stop and question anyone who is an alien or who is believed to be an alien, whether they are attempting to enter or are already in the United States. They can effect arrests without warrant. And at the border or its functional equivalent, they are entitled to board and search conveyances, to conduct searches of the individuals and their baggage. And if those individuals are believed to be bringing contraband or material that could be used for support of a terrorist cell in the United States, immigration officers from the various agencies, CBP, ICE, the Border Patrol, which is a subset of CBP, are all statutorily authorized to take those actions that others cannot take. One of the things, for instance, that comes to mind is that intelligence agencies may have indicators from a source or a method that an individual may or may not be carrying something into the United States that is significant. And it might not even be contraband. It might be a book full of telephone numbers that's of inestimable value. When that individual comes within the purview of Title VIII, which is the Immigration and Nationality Act, that's enforced by officers from these various agencies, they're in a position to burrow into the baggage and to find that and to confirm what the intelligence agency may suspect is the case, and to photocopy it, and sometimes to do it in a way that the individual doesn't even know has happened, so that if the idea is not to allow the individual to be alerted to the United States government's interest in him or her, it can be done. It has been done. When I was a very young officer and hostages were taken in Iran, and we were told to go out and start trying to identify all of the Iranian students in the United States, which there was no method to do that because we were so woefully inadequate with our data systems, which were, a lot of it was paper bound. I remember myself knocking on the door of any number of Iranian students in the United States who were just Iranian students in the United States, but more than one of whom, once we got inside their premises, in one instance we found narcotics and weapons. In another instance, we found magazines documenting that the individual was a member of Mujahideen al-Khalq, which is a designated terrorist organization, and at that point in time, that far back had been responsible for the murder of a military attaché in Tehran. Had we not been given the opportunity, and in fact, because of those circumstances, the responsibility to go knock on doors and not take no for an answer, we would never have seen the things that we saw. And it was a wake-up call to me as a young officer to find that these kinds of people were in the United States as foreign students. I think it's surprising sometimes for people to hear how broad the authorities of federal officers are where immigration is concerned. For instance, my reference to the right to stop and question anyone who is an alien or who is believed to be an alien. I should make clear that immigration officers don't want to waste their own time unprofitably. That's not useful to them. They don't want or need to do that. Secondly, it's not as if there is no court overview of how officers go about their business. Officers have to have articulable facts that give them rise to some reason to believe that the individual is an alien. But third, there is also the very definite reality that in our country, we have rejected soundly the notion of a national identity card. Without a national identity card, an officer doesn't have any way to quickly discern who's a citizen and who's not. The only way they're going to be able to go about that is to use their articulable facts to approach someone and to dispose quickly of the individual status. And if it's a citizen or permanent residence, walk away, thank you, appreciate your time, have a good day, in as polite a way as they can. Or if it's someone who is illegally in the United States or facially legitimately, but leaving enough question, such as with non-immigrants, whether they may have overstayed or be working illegally or engaged in activities that are contrary to the national interest, to give those officers enough of a hook to know, now that I know you're an alien, I need to know a little bit more about you. It has led them to the next step in the process of determining who and what they're dealing with at that point in time. And that shouldn't be frightening to the population at large. That should be a comfort.